Everybody for having me here. Thanks everybody for having me here to this presentation. I hope that in the next hour I can give you a nice introduction to this very useful business tool called Business Plans, and that it'll be helpful for you in your farm business. Um, so I will go ahead and get started with this. I just wanted to introduce my organization. It is called the New York Small Business Development Center. It is a federally funded program. We work with all types of small businesses across the state and across the country, actually. It's been around for 41 years. And we are funded by the Small Business Administration, or SBA. And the only reason that that's important to you is because it means that it is no cost and it's confidential. Um, because it's taxpayer funded. And like I said, we work with all types of small businesses. Here in New York, our New York network, we have about 70 offices across the state, and we work with about 16,000 small businesses a year. Um, a percentage of that does happen to be farm businesses, but we draw on all different types of small businesses. The only type of business we can't work with is cannabis, unfortunately, because it is not federally legal yet. So, um, but we could point you in the right direction for that. So this is our state site. You can go here. The main services that we provide are one-on-one business advising. So you meet with a counselor or an advisor. And then we also provide a lot of business education. So across our 70 centers, we provide about 20 to 30 different business trainings a month. And most of those are free. And if we do charge, it's because we have a speaker come in on a specific topic and they're very minimal cost. So you can go ahead and take a look at those and see what our upcoming webinars are. It's always nice to have different resources. Cornell Extension does a fantastic job of getting out the information, and it's always nice to have an idea of other organizations too that are also working in the small business space. Small business, what does it mean? That it's, for the federal definition, it's we can work with any business with less than 500 employees. So just to give you a reference, that typically accounts for about 95% of the businesses in the United States. So small businesses like farm businesses are really the backbone of our economy. So that is SBDC for short. And who am I? I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Bree Bacon. I've been an advisor at SBDC in the Niagara Center over here on the Buffalo side for 10 years. And a few years ago, I helped start and chair our statewide agriculture committee. So to help really organize the advisors and the information so that we can best support our farm clients that we were seeing an increasing number of. And so we're delighted to help support any farm business that comes through our door. I also sit on the national network of SBDCs that work with rural and agricultural based businesses. So that's always a great source of information about what's going on nationwide. I am a farmer myself, so I co-own with my husband a diversified fruit and veggie and flower farm here in Niagara County. So you can see this is from a few years ago when I was still working at markets. And I'm a member of our local extension office, Farm Bureau, our NOFA, and our farm is certified naturally grown. And my latest hat that I wear is 4-H mom. I was just talking to Lindsay about that. And so I'm happy that my kids are interested in agriculture. So without further ado, we can dive right into the wonderful world of business planning. It's really the core of what SBDC does, is help small businesses like farm businesses go ahead and take their idea, be able to put it on paper, and be able to access funding with that. So this is a quote that I live by in my work with helping small businesses. A dream written down with a date becomes a goal, and a goal broken down into steps becomes a plan, and a plan backed by action makes your dreams reality. And I think that that's really important to keep in mind as we're building our farm businesses, growing, expanding, and evaluating different opportunities. All right. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So let's dive right in. I would love a show of hands, or you can just drop in the chat. How many of you have started a business plan? Just kind of do show of hands or drop in the chat. I'd like to get an idea of how many have started a business plan. And if you have completed a business plan and okay, somebody started. Has anybody completed a business plan or used it to apply for funding, like a grant or a loan? Started it? Okay. Yeah, so if you have started it and you got the grant, congratulations. All right, that's cool. No business plan. All right, cool. So, all right, this is great. This is great. I love to get an idea of um, where everybody is with their business planning journey, because it is a journey. So this is good. A business plan, most important thing to keep in mind is that it is a business tool. It's a tool that businesses use in order to describe their business when you're not there to describe it. So that's the most important thing to think about it. It is great. It's great as a communication tool. There are lots of different business planning tools that can help with the planning process to try to get you to this using this tool and completing your business plan. But for those that a lot of people try to start, and that's where I see a lot of clients. They'll have started a business plan, and then they'll come to SBDC or go to another support organization in order to help finish it. Because, as you know, writing a business plan requires a lot of decision making. There's a lot in there, right? So there are different business tools to help you make those decisions before you start writing the business plan. So when you're approaching your farm, not as a hobby, but really turning it into a business plan is a really essential part of that, because that is how you're going to communicate with any lender, whether that's a grant organization, whether that's your bank, whether that's farm service agency, whether that's your family that's investing in the business. And most importantly, that's you, because you as the owner are always going to invest something, blood, sweat, tears, your savings, your paycheck, whatever it is, to start or expand this farm business. So it's really important to articulate your goals, your business objectives, to show how you're going to achieve those goals with a strategic roadmap, to show how your business is going to operate, what's the structure of it, and back it up with the numbers, right? Those financial projections that show how you're going to achieve those objectives. So today I'm going to break down each of these steps so that hopefully it's not as overwhelming to you and you know where to go in order to get your questions answered and to help you complete your business plan. Like I said, a business plan is the tool that's most often used when making funding decisions. So hopefully that helps. It helps to know why they're important for farms. Farm businesses are going to use a business plan like someone already did to get a grant, right? So they're used to apply for grants. And we are fortunate in our state that we still have access to quite a bit of grant funding that's coming down the pike. So if your farm is grown and certified, there's some grant funding for that. There's going to be another round at the beginning Farmer Competitive Grant Program. Then there's also national grant application processes, like the United States Department of Agriculture, or USDA, has a value-added producers grant that's nationally competitive, and that generally comes out every year. It's open now. And there are other opportunities too, like through the Veteran Coalition, Veteran Farmer Coalition, and other foundations. You'll need a business plan if you are going to go for a loan, whether that's from the Farm Service Agency, Farm Credit East, private investment, like I said, your own owner investment helps to keep you accountable. And it helps you to evaluate your business opportunities. So if you're in the startup phase, it's great to have at least a strategic plan to know what you're going to do in that first year or two. Of course, it's going to change, but it's super helpful to know. Whether you're expanding or considering starting a new product or a new enterprise, let's say you're direct to customer now, so you're just doing retail and you want to start selling wholesale. That's always a fantastic time to go back to your business plan and figure out if that meets your objectives and your goals. You're going to need a business plan when you are transitioning your business, or you are a new owner that's taking on an existing business. And we're seeing that more and more. I'm sure Cornell is too. We're seeing a lot more of transitions of farm and farmland and farm businesses. So this is becoming really important for that. It really helps to have a plan. So the question that I'm going to ask you to be able to answer for yourself, you don't have to answer it to me, but when starting your business plan, what is your goal for your business plan? What's your objective? Is it to access funding? Is it to start a new enterprise? Is it to transition your business? It's good to know what your end goal is, right? Let's see. It looks like there is Pharma mentioned by Bree about the credentials she held, a New York State only credential. Oh, I don't know what Pharma is. If you can just explain a little bit more, then I can help answer that question. And in the meantime, we'll just move on. Okay. So I like to think of a business plan when clients come to us for assistance in writing their business plan. It's typically for funding. Then I like to think of it as a 5-step planning process. And there are 5 sections to it. Here are the sections right here. I'm just going to go over the big labels first, and then we'll go step by step down into the nitty grit over there. So the first is going to be your funding request. This goes at the very front of your business plan. And this is where you're going to show how much money you're asking for. Then you're going to describe your business. This is where you're going to show how your business operates, right? How it produces the product or the service for your customer. Then we're going to go into a marketing plan. We're going to describe how your customers get to know your farm and how they choose you. Then we will definitely touch on financial statements. I'm trying to make sure that we have enough time to go over that, because this is the section where most people need the most help. And this is the part where any type of support organization or advisor can really help you put together these financial statements so that they're clear and they support your whole story and your whole proposal. Yeah, we we all like doing financial statements. I know that that's not typical, but that is definitely the core of what we do. And then any grant package or loan package is going to require some supporting exhibits. So it really helps to have those handy, and have those nice and organized so that you know how you know where it is when you need it, right? So what I'm going to do is start with the business description. This is always the best place to start with a business plan. When you're wondering where to start, it's this. You need to be able to answer the question, can somebody else clearly explain what you do on your farm? Because remember, the business plan is a communication tool. It's a business communication tool that describes your business to somebody else making a funding decision when you are not there in front of them to make that description. So, the business description has to include some details. The funders or the lenders are going to want to know, what type of legal structure is your business? And who are the owners of this business? Is it just you, or is it a collection of people? Is it a partnership? What's the history of your farm business? A lot of farms have evolved over time. So it's nice to be able to kind of succinctly or briefly tell that history. And then you have to give a description of your farm. A lot of people skip over this step, but you need the address. Where is it? How many acres? A lot of farm loans, all farm loans, and many farm grants are going to want to know your harvest history. That's what they're going to base a lot of their funding decisions on, are the crops that you grow and what that harvest is over a certain amount of time, usually 3 years or 5 years, and so that they can evaluate what the potential for that crop yield and harvest is going to be and what that price is going to be in the future, because they're evaluating whether there's going to be enough income and enough profit from the farm business in order to support the loan or the grant. Retail hours. This applies if you have a farm stand or a farm store, or you're at a farmer's market or several farmers markets. That's what this is going to apply to. Certifications. Is your farm certified? Are you Gronin certified? Are you NOFA? Are you C&G? Do you, as a farm owner, are you a member of different organizations? For many of the fruit farmers, there's and maple farmers, there's different associations within the industry. Owners' professional qualifications. This is where you get to list your professional qualifications, because any lender or investor or grantor wants to make sure that the owners who are responsible for the business have the qualifications to own and manage this business. So they want to know how many years you've been farming, if there are other outside professional experiences that you've had that transfer to farm ownership. If you've taken training or courses or listened to webinars like this, those are all really useful. And then professional advisors. So we like to say that, no business is an island. It's impossible to do it alone. And any investor is going to want to see that you have your network set up. So your legal, who's your attorney? who's your insurance that you use. Again, those associations, if you have a mentor, if you are utilizing the other support networks out there. All right. So that is business description. It doesn't have to be long, but it definitely has to be to the point. All right, I'm going to check this back. Okay, mention. Oh, okay, on slide 3. Okay. I'll have to go back and see what that was. I'll save that until afterwards, but remind me, okay, to go back and see. Because I don't have any pharma certifications, but we're certified naturally grown, our farm is. So maybe that's what you were asking about in the Q&A section. Sorry about that. I was just leaping over to try to answer that question. Okay. Going back to the business plan. So this is going to be the first section that anyone can start to do. If you can get this section down, that's a great start for your business plan. Now, the next kind of subsection of the business description is an operational plan. So this is where you're going to show that your farm, how your farm manages production and record keeping. This is really important because any lender is going to want to know how you're arriving at these at the numbers, right? So they're going to want to make sure that you have your operations systems in place so that you'll be able to pay a loan back on a timely manner or be able to complete grant reporting that needs to be completed. So your operations plan is going to include it might include things like your farm plan, if it's our farms are seasonal. So you'll want to show that you understand what the season is. They might not want to see all of your crop plans, but they're going to want you to be able to describe it to them, what your harvesting plan is, that you have a pest management system in place. They're looking at how you're evaluating risk and how you're analyzing risk, right? And so being able to show and describe that you have a plan in place for how you are producing your product and also minimizing risk. That's what they're going to want to see. Equipment. So if you rely on a lot of equipment, they want to know that you know how to operate it, that it is well maintained. They'll ask for an asset list that includes all your equipment on it and the resale value. So that's always kind of an easy place to start. We farmers do enjoy our equipment, so having that list is especially important. You might already have it for your insurance, so it's kind of an easy thing. It's really good to keep that updated, right? An org chart. If you have employees, what are their roles and responsibilities? How many hours are they working? What's their wages? For the owners especially, a lender's going to want to know who's responsible for financial purchases, major financial purchases. They're going to want to know who's responsible for attracting customers, right? And keeping customers. And they're going to want to know who's responsible for hiring and firing and training staff. So this is important, especially if it's just the owners, right? If there are no employees. So if you're out there saying that you're going to do that you're going to start a 10-acre diversified vegetable farm and you're going to sell year round and it's just the two of you or the one of you, well, a lender is going to look at that and they're going to know that that's probably not attainable or practical or feasible, right? So you're going to want to show that you understand that the organizational capacity that you need in order to produce that product. Business systems. So this is where you get to describe all the nitty grit that we kind of don't think about, but actually takes up a lot of our time, right? For those of us that run businesses, payroll is definitely something we got to do every week. So what is your payroll system? What's your bookkeeping system? What's your system for accounts payable and accounts receivable? If you do have certifications, what's your record keeping systems for those? This is where you get to write that. And this is super important. How are you receiving the money from your customers or clients? They want to know, are you invoicing? Are you, cash on delivery? Are you net 14? Are you net 30? Are you net 60? Right? So any lender and you yourself, if you're just starting, you need to be able to answer these questions and show that you have these systems in place. This is where if you're just starting your farm or you're just starting a new enterprise, this is where this is a time to think, do I have these systems in place? And start to create these systems if you need them. So it's a good check. Good time to check. If you do, then it's all about being able to communicate that. Judith asked, yes, I believe it will be shared. I think so. That's a good question for Lindsay. So yeah, in 1 week. Great. Okay, there you go. So yes, I understand I pack a lot of information in, but I was a new farmer once, and even now, I think it's important to be able to have these free resources available out there and know who to go to when you have questions, right? So this is hopefully a good reference for you. All right. So your next section is going to be the marketing plan. And this is where you're going to answer the question for yourself and for your lenders is, how do customers find your farm business and how do they choose you? From all the other farms out there, how do they choose your farm? So a marketing plan is just being able to show how you're differentiating yourself, how you're standing out in the crowd, what value you're creating for your customers. So I took a look at this amazing business plan series that is going up, this monthly series that is put together, and there are a couple of upcoming webinars that really dive into marketing. So I love this. I think it's a super important topic for farms, and one that we can't get enough of, but I'm going to actually just quickly go over this, and then you all are going to have the opportunity to really dive deep with these upcoming webinars. So, marketing plan. I'm going to just say that your marketing plan, at the very least, has got to include the 4 Ps. You've got to show, you got to list what your products and services are, what the price is. Place is your marketing channel, so where that customer transaction is happening, right? Are you at farmers markets? Do you have a farm stand? Are you going to sell to specialty grocery stores around? What's that marketing channel? And then promotion. What are your promotional strategies? How are you going to let new customers know that your farm exists? Hello, we are out here. We are open for business. And how are you going to retain those loyal customers and keep them just coming back for more? They cannot get enough of your, Hackeri turnips, right? They're going to come back every single week for it. So what are your promotional strategies that are helping for you? And I saw that there's some really good upcoming webinars on that. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that to the other professionals. The last thing in a marketing plan, though, I will say, is you're going to have to show your competitive analysis. this is the part too that I find that small businesses in particular are really hesitant about. But the competitive analysis just show that you understand that there are at least 3 other farms who are offering similar products to similar customers in your area. It just shows that you understand the landscape, right? Um, so that is the marketing plan. It's always a fun one. And I will look forward to the upcoming webinars to dive into that. Okay, so now we're going to spend a few minutes talking about the thing that just everybody loves to talk about, financial statements. So a huge part of any business plan is the financial statements, which are a collection of 3 or 4 pieces of financial information that a lender is going to want to see. And my hope is that every farm business can confidently tell their farm story using their numbers. That is my vision for farm businesses in New York State. That you know your numbers and that you're confident about being able to tell your numbers, back them up. So we're going to go ahead and dive into it. And just so you know, it's okay if these are confusing, and just know that you have references and you have a lot of support organizations that can help you put together these. They're called pro forma financial statements. So the first thing, the first one that we're going to talk about is the funding request. This is where you're going to answer the question, can you clearly explain what the money you're asking for will be used for? And I've given an example here, so I'll read the example. So this requires quite a lot of work on your part. If you see a grant opportunity come up, or you are applying for a loan, or you really want to start your farm and you're going to use your retirement savings or your life savings or your paycheck in order to fund it, this is going to be a really important part of that is how much money do you need to complete your project, whether it's a startup or an expansion. So here's an example of what a funding request looks like in a business plan, in a formal business plan that's being presented to some lenders. And this is a complete fictional example. I don't know if there's an Ace Orchard LLC out there. We just use Ace for all of our different examples. So, and John Smith, apparently. So John Smith, the owner of Ace Orchard LLC, requests funding of $95,000. That's $80,000 from his bank, and looks like a $15,000 loan from the Industrial Development Agency to expand his Apple enterprise to meet the demands of a long-term customer. So maybe he's selling to Wegmans or selling to Tops or something. Then he goes on to explain exactly what the funds are going to be used for. The funds will be used to purchase equipment, materials, and provide working capital. So you're going to create a graph down here that shows where the cash is coming from. So the owner is kicking in 20,000. He's asking the bank for 80, and the IDA, his local IDA, is going to he's asking them for another 15. So his total cash sources are 115,000, right? And then he is describing exactly what it's going to be used for. So he's purchasing $60,000 in equipment, and you'll see Exhibit 1 for details. So he's got the quotes to back it up. And then he's doing some barn improvements for $15,000. That's awesome. I don't know. You could do a barn improvement these days for $15,000, but okay, we'll go with it for this example. And then he's buying another $10,000 in supplies. Maybe he needs like bags for his apples or something. And then he's asking for 30,000 in working capital. So this could be for payroll, something like that. So as you can see, the most important part is that the cash sources, 115,000, and the cash uses, 115,000, they match. They are the same. So he can show where the money's going to come from and where it's going to. So this is a funding request. So if you're taking a look at any of the grant opportunities that are coming up, this is really important. And you will spend a lot of time, if you've already done the grant, you'll spend time putting together this funding request right here. So if you're looking at this next season and you're thinking, yeah, there's some projects that I want to do, this is a great time to go ahead and start thinking about those cash uses. Okay, what am I going to be using this money for? We always start with cash uses. So figuring this out first and then figuring out, this is called stacking, figuring out where the money is going to come from. Okay, so that's the funding request. Now, there are 3 financial statements typically that a lender is going to ask for in the pro forma. They're the income statement, the cash flow statement, and the balance sheet. And I went ahead and provided the examples here. I understand this might be a little overwhelming if you are not used to looking at the financials, but this is a pro forma income statement, and it's totally fictional. It doesn't actually exist, but you can look at this and take a look at what a 3-year pro forma income statement is going to look like. Now, this financial statement, the income statement, is also called your profit and loss statement. And what it is it's a summary of all of the revenue, the income that the farm has made, and you'll see that up here at the very top, right? And this one's broken down by different types of products. So the orchard, picked apples, baked goods, and then pumpkins and flowers. And then you're going to subtract the cost of goods sold. So this is or in a farm's case, cost of production. So this is how much it costs to to probably buy the plugs, seeds, fertilizers, whatever went into to the baked goods. And what you're going to get is your gross profit here. A lender is going to look at what your percentage of gross profit is from your total sales. And if any of you have filed an F1 for your farm business, then this might look familiar to you because that's the profit and loss statement that you provide to in your taxes. So then from your gross profit, you're gonna you're gonna tally up all your operating expenses. Operating expenses are those expenses that you're gonna pay whether you produce a crop or not. You're still on the hook for paying for insurance, property taxes, rentals, telephone and internet, whatever it is. Different farm businesses break these expenses down in different ways. This is just a very general way of doing it for what looks like a, kind of mixed agritourism type of orchard, U-pick orchard or something. Once those are summed up down here, then you're going to subtract that from your gross profit, and you're going to end up with what's called your net profit down here. This is what a lender is going to look at to see if this percentage is healthy, whether it's within an acceptable range for your industry. And it's going to help the lender make a decision as to whether your farm has enough income and has kept its expenses under control in order to cover all of those expenses. So that is the profit and loss statement right there. And like I said, this is where we see a lot of questions and where there are support organizations that can help you do this at no cost. The second financial statement that any lender is going to want to look at is your cash flow statement. So, and here's an example for Ace Orchard that comes from that first, the same as the first income statement. So this is where your farm is going to show, it's essentially a checking account, right? So it's going to show how the cash flows over time by source and by use. So where the inflows are and where the outflows are. And the cash flow statement is really important, and it's important for your farm too, and for you when you're doing financial management, because it's going to reveal two things. The first is how much investment is going to be needed in order to fund this project and cash flow it throughout the year. So if you notice here, the beginning balance in year one isn't zero. They saved $20,000 from the year before that they needed to get through those lean months, right? Before they started selling during the harvest season. And it'll also show that where the gaps are in your cash flow. So you can see year two, it gets really lean again. This might be a bit of a concern, right? What's happening here that there's a decrease in year two in the cash flow. So this is something where you're going to want to see it for yourself, for your own business, because farms are seasonal. Their cash flow is lumpy, right? It's not a steady thing month over month. It is something that ebbs and flows. And being able to project your cash flow over months, sometimes over weeks, right? So you can get down to that number is going to be really important, because it's going to help you see how much money you need, not just to start your business, but to keep it going. And how much and where those gaps are going to be, where the super lean times are going to be. And it's going to help a lender identify that as well. So having a cash flow statement and analyzing it is a really key part of your financial management system. And the really important thing to remember is that if you go back, a farm business can show a profit, right? It can show a nice healthy profit over here. Net profit 15%, 19%, 23%. But it can still run out of cash. How many of you have gone down the street and you see a new restaurant that's just opened and you're like, oh, I gotta try that place. And 6 months later, you drive by and it's already out of business, right? That's a really good example of how a business started. They probably had enough money to get the doors open, but they ran out of cash. And I will say, undercapitalization is pretty much the one of the number one reasons that any small business doesn't make it within the first 3 to 5 years, is because they kind of run out of cash. So being able to analyze your cash flow is really helpful, and because you're going to be able to understand where those pain points are, and then it gives you the time to change it. It gives you the time to address that situation. Hey, like for us, we on our farm, we did a cash flow analysis a couple years ago. So we're like, oh, February and March is really tight. Why is it so tight? Well, our insurance our taxes and our loan were all due in the same month. And it just really took a toll on our cash flow. So it was knowing that that we were able to manage it and make some decisions so that we could spread that out. So it was a really key part of our financial management system. And any lender is going to want to see it too. So that's cash flow. And the third statement here is the balance sheet. Now, some lenders start with the balance sheet. This is the statement that shows the value that your business, your farm is creating, right? So it is quite simply the business assets. So this is your cash, this is your equipment, your supplies, your physical assets, your business assets that are like your brand, your signage, your advertising, your website. Those are all assets to your business. And then you're going to show your liabilities. That's assets minus liabilities. And this is what the farm owes. Liabilities are what they owe. And it's broken down into things they owe right away, and then things that are more middle term and long term liabilities. So the rest of your loan or anything like that, mortgage. And then it's to show your shareholders' equity. So this is the equity that of the owner investments and any profits that are retained here. So a lender is going to want to see your balance statement, usually up front, because they're trying to get a quick peek as to what your debt to equity is, and ideally see it over time. This is where they're going to look and make a judgment as to whether the farm has created enough value and whether they can take on a liability of a loan, right? So they're just trying to make those assessments, and being able to have this information ready is going to make that funding process so much quicker. And I gave you I think the USDA has some worksheets to help you around this as well. So your balance sheet is really important because it's going to show that equity over time. And you want it to be ideally increasing, right, over time. And like I said, this is how you're going to make sure that this decision is a good investment, because the lenders are certainly using it for that as well. Okay. Any questions? Let me see. Any questions on that? I don't want to lose you, but I also really think it's important that I introduce these financial statements to you, because you're going to need to have them for any lending that happens. So, yep, okay, yes. So that is the struggle bus. Yep. Yeah, financials are definitely one of the things that it's such a learning process. And a lot of people start their farm and they are paying for it out of pocket. Yeah. So you want to keep yourself accountable to that. And yes, it does feel like the bootstrapping phase goes on and on and on, right? Maybe it always will, but it is important that you owe almost zero. So it sounds like you're paying as you go, which is definitely a tried and true method of starting a farm. There's no race, there's no, time frame for starting a farm. It's a slow process because so much of it are really, really big capital investments, right? I mean, it's not cheap to build a barn or build onto a barn or buy a piece of equipment. So really identifying where your profit centers are on your farm. So that means what is generating the most profit, not just the most revenue, but what is really, really taking the least amount of expenses to create, to be able to sell. Identifying what those profit centers are and focusing on them is going to really help you with getting that buffer and of cash, right? And then making some hard decisions on things that are not generating money. So this is where a business differs from a hobby. A hobby, you're doing it for the love of the game, right? You're doing it because it brings you joy. A business is a business. You're starting a business to create value for your customer. So you got to know what your customer wants and what they're going to be willing to pay for. And sometimes that's not always what, you're going to have to shift what it is that you're offering in order to create that value for your customer. So it's a mindset shift, especially if you're transitioning from a hobby farm to a business. Okay, supporting documents. Is keep good records. Okay. Yes, I agree. So Samuel writes, I think it's an important thing to when you're bootstrapping to keep good records. Then you have to know which parts of the operations are creating profit, more income than expense. Then you can decide whether capital investment or expansion is worth it. Absolutely. I think that that's a really good way of summarizing it. That record keeping is really important. And you're going to need it. Farm Service Agency wants 3 years of harvest records or production records. They're going to want that. So you're going to need it for any decision that you make anyway. And it helps keep you accountable. So the last section is going to be all those supporting documents. And most, lenders and grantors have a checklist that they'll provide to you. And you got to make sure that you are handing in everything on that checklist, right? They do not want incomplete applications. They can't process them. So you're going to work with your loan officer or support organization or, the grant funder in order to make sure that you have all the documents that they need in order to make a decision. Like I said, they're going to have a checklist, but typically the supporting documents are things like quotes, estimates, purchase agreements. If you're building or constructing, they're going to want to see blueprints. Make sure you got the permits and approvals for that. Any environmental, permits that are needed. Contracts. If you're renting or leases, they'll want to see have a copy of that. Professional resume sometimes is required. For grants, sometimes they're looking for letters of recommendation or letters of support. Lenders also might want to see some marketing materials. They're going to want to see that you understand your marketing plan, that you have a marketing plan in place, that you know how to attract the right customer that's paying for this. If you're starting a farm restaurant or a farm to table or even a farm stand, they're going to want to see a menu or a price list if that's applicable. So having all of this very well organized is going to help you in the long run because I swear grants always come out during the busy season when all of us are outside. So having all of this stuff really super organized in the off season really helps. Really helps. Okay. So to wrap it up, here's some business do's and don'ts. Please write your own plan. I have had so many clients that have they've been referred by a bank because they've been denied a loan because they spent either thousands of dollars to get their plan written and it wasn't what the lender was looking for, or they had it generated by AI and it definitely wasn't true and honest. So please write your own plan. It doesn't have to be long. It really doesn't. And you can use other business tools like the business model canvas that I mentioned in order to help you prepare for writing. Definitely use templates. There are a lot of different templates out there that you can use. There is support. You don't have to do it alone. And use your management systems to help you get the information. And there's a list of don'ts here too for that as well. So I want to make sure you have time to look for this. Business plan support. Oh, wait a minute. I'm going to go to the next page. Sorry about that. I'm going to go to the next page. So I wanted to leave you with some free resources. Here are 6. I just added the the 6th one. I had forgotten it, so don't say the 5. Just say 6 no cost online farm business plan templates that you can use. SBDC has one on our site. USDA.gov has a farm business basics site, and they have a resource library that has worksheets for your financials. Cornell Small Farms Program has a really nice section in their Guide to Urban Planning with some business plan templates in there. FarmNet can help you. SBA.gov has a business plan. They have 2 business plan templates on there. And University of Minnesota Extension has an entire web-based plan called Ag Plan that's really great. Lindsay uses that. So, and I've had other clients use that too. So it's a really nice one, and it will definitely be based on your harvest, your production, which is what you need for your farm business. So I want to thank you for your attention and also this really good discussion today too. And yeah, if you have any last questions, we have a few minutes. Happy to answer.